Incident at Loch Ness. It's a 2004 British film directed by well-known screenwriter Zach Penn, but also starring Werner Herzog, the critically acclaimed, world-famous German director. And I'm excited to do this movie because I really do.
Oh, really?
I love Werner Herzog, and we've talked in the past.
Him with Klaus Kinski.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
We've talked in the past
I
about.
think when I was a kid, I've seen some of his movies. The
about
one with the ship over the mountain.
Fitzcarraldo, yes. And we've talked about genius directors and stuff, Stanley Kubrick and things like that. And I also put Werner Herzog in the category of genius director. But Gene, what are your thoughts of Incident at Loch Ness?
Oh, sometimes, Roger, this is a fun podcast and everything, but you suggested this movie, but we do. It is a horror podcast, right? We review horror movies, right? You're well aware of this.
Yes.
Did you forget? I think you forgot.
I did not. There was horrific things that happened at the end.
What horrific things?
The Loch Ness Monster shows up.
Oh my gosh. Well, my favorite parts of this movie, that's horror comedy for sure. It's all a farce, and you just have to roll with it for what it is. And I just love how they play off, and how it's, in a way, Werner Herzog is kind of making fun at the making of movies in a way. Mm-hmm. It's a comedy. You get all these people together, and each one wants to contribute, and some people have just clearly lost their minds. And sometimes when you interview local people, like I think my favorite part of the movie was they were talking, I think after the boat sinks, they talking to a local policeman.
Right.
This is great. And the guy says that sometimes there's a sighting, and all of a sudden the whole town just evolves into pandemonium, and he says it kind of like that.
Yeah.
And he also goes on to say it's like and also one word comes to forefront. It's just one word comes to mind, and it's the Loch Ness Monster. I'm just like, that's just the funniest thing ever, because he kept saying it's just one word, and then right after that he says the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, it's great. So it's just him making fun of the whole movie making experience, and the whole thing with this model that shows up, which is the sonar expert, and the sonar sounds just like the sounds from the movie Aliens. And
right.
It's just like this little creepy thing. Yeah.
Well, and I liked the making of a movie thing, because of course Zach Penn plays the producer in the film. Well, he was not only the director of this film but also the producer along with Werner Herzog, and so they're all playing themselves basically in this film. And I did like how Werner is going into this film with a much different idea of what it's going to be as opposed to Zach Penn. Early on in the film, Werner Herzog is talking, and you really understand his genius as a filmmaker during the early part of the film, where he's talking about how we keep seeking out images that we haven't seen before, and if we can't do that, society will begin to crumble. And he's trying to make this film about this. Why do so many people believe in this Loch Ness Monster, and what is the backstory of humanity's psyche and having to believe about these things that so clearly don't exist? And then here's Zach Penn, the producer, saying, hey, I've got to have a scantily clad model in my movie.
Right.
And it's like, what are you doing? And that is so true to life with filmmaking in general, where you have a producer that's, we got to spice this up. We've got to do this or we got to do that. I don't really care what your vision is. We need to get some scantily clad women in this film somehow.
Yeah, so a size 6 woman in a bikini. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah,
it has no place in the movie at all. But it's just a farce, It's making fun of the whole movie making process, and in a way making fun of our whole culture. by analogy.
Well, and I liked how they had the real guys. That cinematographer is a world famous cinematographer.
And the sound guy,
and the sound guy as well.
That's the real guy?
That's the real guy, yeah.
Because I was wondering, did they just pull this guy off the street and then just give him titles?
No, and there's a dinner sequence early on in the film.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum shows up.
Well, and did you
cool.
catch the other person who showed up for 2 seconds of footage right before they cut away?
Nope.
Crispin Glover.
You're kidding. How could I miss that?
Because they were cutting away right when Werner Herzog and the cinematographer were going to go have that private conversation. There's a guy that walks in, and it's Crispin Glover.
Nice.
Yeah, so it really kind of sets this
little known guy, but in some great comedy movies.
Well, and of course he's also horribly killed in Friday the 13th Part 4.
Yeah, I think I missed that one.
Yes, we'll have to do that.
No.
But the whole premise, of course, is it's this kind of, there's 2 other guys who are filming kind of like a documentary of Werner Herzog and kind of his life.
That's the narrative we see through their lens.
Right, and then there's this other movie going on, and then there's kind of this third movie going on where Zach Penn's like, oh, we're going to throw a model of the Loch Ness Monster out there.
Yeah, and they make a little model.
Mm-hmm.
It's a joke, yeah.
Yeah, and then the horror element doesn't really kick in until the last 15, 20 minutes when, okay, maybe there is something actually out in this water. And I did like...
That's not really horror, though.
Well, but...
No, it's not.
It does get intense.
No. I would never use the word intense to describe anything in this movie.
Oh, I would. The ending sequence when the boat is sinking and they are on the last bits of that boat before it goes underwater... And Werner Herzog takes that camera that has been fitted to be able to work underwater.
Underwater, right.
And then, oh my God, here's what that camera sees.
Yeah, and the monster brushes up against him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is not unintense, in my opinion. And maybe it's just because I'm a big Loch Ness Monster guy. I really wish that thing did exist. How cool would that be? But,
yeah, there's just no physical way.
But to me, seeing that little sequence there where that camera goes underwater and it's right there, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd have to use the argument of tone because you set up the whole tone of the movie is kind of like it's not unserious. You have this size 6 model. You got people just being really ridiculous. They bring in this so-called expert. Cryptobiologist, something, the title they made up. And it's just silly. And the whole lines of dialogue are just ridiculous. Like that producer asked this boat captain, hey, your engine's too loud. You either replace that motor or you're out. And so what? And the guy says, okay, I'll replace it. You don't replace motors. What? That's ridiculous
that to me was not ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. And then so they're asking... The tone of the movie is just very not serious, and all of a sudden at the end they want me to be serious? No.
So I was looking at that part as this is how real Hollywood producers operate. Hey, the sound guy has told me that this engine is too loud to get sound on this boat, so I need you to find a different engine, and we're going to swap them out. That is a Hollywood producer who's had way too much coke to a T. That is what Bruckheimer. He was one of those guys where they thought of themselves as this king of the world thing, and they could do whatever they want and order anybody to do anything. I thought,
Don Simpson, Bruckheimer. Yeah, I can see those guys. Yeah,
where it was just this is how it's going to work, and I loved that scene, and I also love the after credits scene where Zach Penn is talking about all the suffering that he's had to go through, and he's suffered more than anyone.
Even more than the 2 people who died.
Right.
And he said, oh, they're dead, but it's over for them now.
Right.
But I'm still alive and I got to live with it.
Yeah. And I'm like,
punch you.
That is a Hollywood producer to the T, right?
Well, I don't know. Have we met Hollywood? I don't know if I've really met a Hollywood producer.
No, but there's certainly a lot of books that talk about the filmmaking process where they'll talk specifically about certain producers and how they've gone so over the top with their expectations and demands. And I thought that was beautiful. I think if you like learning about the filmmaking process and things like that, I think this is a good movie for that because it does show kind of these ups and downs and I do like how they talk. Werner Herzog talks a lot about how he made Fitzcarraldo and his interplay with him and Klaus Kinski, which was always intense. Two genius people, Klaus Kinski as an actor and then Werner as the director, having conflict over how a scene should play out. And of course, Fitzcarraldo, if you haven't seen that, Werner Herzog in the Amazon jungle, he's dragging this big, huge steamboat up over this mountain, and he's really doing it. It's not like, CGI effects. No, we're actually doing this.
That's before CGI. It's really happening.
Yeah. So he's a pretty intense guy, and I just loved a lot of his commentary about filmmaking process and things like that. And then, oh, by the way, here's the Loch Ness Monster at the end.
Yeah, it's pretty silly movie, but it's fun. It is fun. It's humorous, and it's you give insights into, like we were saying, the production, some production elements.
Yeah, and is it
it's an interplay of big personalities?
Yeah,
everyone has a big personality. Everyone's right.
Yeah, and I really like this film just because, it's a movie that you don't see movies like this.
No, you don't.
And so it's interesting, and is it a intense horror film? No, and no. I do have to apologize to Eugene. When I made this recommendation, it was just, man, we don't have a movie on the docket for this week. Hey, how about this one? Because I remember it being cool. And, it's on my shelf of horror films. But, yeah, it's not really a horror film.
No. But it's a good review. It's fun.
So, Gene, do we have anything else to say about Incident at Loch Ness?
No, I really like that police officer and his pandemonium. Yeah, and then it's one word, and then it's actually the Loch Ness Monster.
Right. Well, and I liked the cryptozoologist guy too, who it turns out was actually just hired by the director.
And
of
he
course,
was paid.
And he's not one. He's not a cryptozoologist.
Yeah, and it just has the most
up.
ridiculous things. Like he has this rope, and he shows the camera that it's 3 feet long, and then he brags that it actually can become 8 feet.
Right. And
it's like, what in the world?
And the boat captain's like, yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, he rolls his eyes. Like,
and just, and so it was just, the producer again, because there's this conversation early on where Werner is like, yeah, I want one of these guys, but I want him to be kind of intense, but not like crazy. And then Zach Penn's like, look, none of those guys, none of what you wanted exists. I had to hire this guy.
Yeah, exactly. I paid him.
And so just the whole backstory behind doing all that stuff is really a lot of fun. But is it something that's going to scare you? No. Except maybe the last little sequence there.
No.
But Gene says no, of course.
I would say no.
But we're going to be off next week. But what are you thinking we're going to do? I mean, I know we have to do the Babadook because Scott Eggleston wants to do that one.
Yeah, that's fine.
But what else are you thinking?
So we're on the subject of the British Isles, and one of my favorite actresses is this actress called Rebecca Hall. It's British. It's been a lot of stuff that definitely not related to horror. She was in the BFG, which is one of my probably favorite movies. Is Ronald Dahl, adaptation of Ronald Dahl. But she's made this horror movie called Resurrection. It's 2022, Resurrection. And I've seen it. Actually, I've seen about half of it. But it's pretty good.
So we want to try that one?
Resurrection, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
When I think of BFG, what do you think comes to my mind?
It's the big...
Yes, from Doom. No.
Giant.
No. BFG. Big effing gun from Doom, the original Doom.
Oh, the original Doom had that.
The video game. You've played Doom, right? Oh, my God, Gene.
No, I'm never much of a video game guy. And plus, I thought you said Dune.
No.
Because right now the Dune is out. Dune Part 2 is out, which I saw the other day. It was great. It was an epic movie.
Yeah.
I'd say Dune 1 is probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay, so
I'm definitely down with Dune.
We will be off next week, but then we're going to try to fit in Babadook and then Resurrection, or we're going to do Resurrection and then I guess it depends on Scott's availability.
Yeah, on our local director here. Okay,
as usual, something will happen.
Resurrection, Rebecca Hall, or Babadook.
Or
Or
something
the
completely
reverse
unknown.
order.
Or maybe
It'd be one of those two.
maybe Loch Ness horror. We'll
No,
just go down
no,
the
we're not
road of
gonna do
more
that,
Loch
no.
Ness monster movies.
It's going to be
Terror of Loch Ness.
Rebecca Hall in Resurrection or Babadook or reverse.
All right, very good. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.